You look around yourself and you say, why do we do the things that we do? Why does this happen? Why do people interact the way that they do? Well, that has to do with communication and social behavior. And one of the theories that helps explain this is called social interactionism. Social interactionism looks at the way that language and communication help shape our world and the understanding that we have of our world. It also helps us to have a knowledge of how these things are constructed so that we can then be critical about them, because sometimes we want things to continue the way they have been and sometimes we don't. But unless we take a more critical lens at the words we say, then nothing ever changes. Looking at these patterns of communication help us understand power and privilege. They help us understand how our world is constructed to sometimes keep people in the same place and sometimes help people move out of those places to gain power themselves. When we look at language, this helps us to create a more equitable and inclusive world. When we're in the workplace or we're in personal relationships, taking a step back and saying, why do we interact this way? What words are we using? What language is shaping our reality? That helps us to be more critical of what's going on. And because we're critical, it helps us to make changes in our world. If we decide that we do want to change something, what do? Well, we look at the historical context of why something happened. We look at the actors that are involved. We look at the language that's being used. For example, if we talk about mental illness, is mental illness something that can be changed or not? Is it something that a doctor can help with or not? Is it something that our neighbors talk about and we say, oh, that person has depression and so we need to look at depression in a certain way? If we don't look at the language and the ways that we interact with doctors and neighbors and historical context of how mental illness has been looked at, then nothing changes. But if we want mental illness to be something that we can actually go out and change, the way we look at it, the way that we approach people and interact with people who have mental illness, then we have to examine those practices that we're using. Otherwise, it stays the same. Learn more about topics that change our world by subscribing to Office Hours.